And only 3 minutes late this time. We are doing fantastic. Well, you know what? I'm thrilled, and because I want to celebrate that we're only 3 minutes late this time, I want to go ahead and get the show going because we got a lot of stuff to do. Welcome, Internet. Come on in, sit your butt down, grab some popcorn because this is going to be the most entertaining thing on the Internet right now. This is BowtieUP Live. I am Lee Rowley with Lee Rowley Copy Branding, as always, with my dashing co-host.
I'm Alex McDowell, owner of A3 Innovation and founder of A3 Innovation and partner at Real Impact Solution. Wow, I really just butchered that today. No worries. How's it going, everybody? Wonderful to see you back here again today. But we are joined by two very special guests that we would love to introduce to you. The first of which, with the mysterious tag JD, is
Jeff Adams.
Hey, Jeff, how is it going today? And we'll give you more time to elaborate on that to get more info about you. But over to his left, his far prettier counterpart is the one and only
Jillian Risco. Hello.
Hi, Jillian. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the show.
You too, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, for you guys just joining, I want to explain since we started this, I was like, Alex, I want live entertainment on the show. I want mariachi bands. I want three-ring circuses. I want pandas on unicycles and I just want to make a whole spectacle out of thing. And they're like, we can't do that. I'm like, cool. Well, can we do musicians? And we're like, yeah, we can do that. And we're like, yeah, all right. Some musician's going to want to spend their time hanging out with a bunch of guys talking about business. But, it happened. And we had some conversations, and one thing led to another. And so then I met this wonderful person named Jillian Fresco, a Kansas City singer-songwriter who has been performing since age 7. Got
a little bit of experience.
Yeah, toured and performed across the U.S. and is open for acts including Lisa Loeb, Stabbing Westward, Pat Benatar, and Everclear. And I would like to welcome her to BowtieUP Live as our first ever musical guest to perform her new single, Creatures of Habit, produced by Avenue Record Company.
Which we will do in just 1 second. But first, we have to stop the show to say hello to some of our awesome members of the audience who are joining us now over here on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for jumping in first. Mr. Gary Monty saying, OMG, the Lee Rowley. Absolutely. I think the same thing every time I join and I see this wonderful kind of Joker looking fool over here today. But I love the bow tie. We should start doing bow tie of the day for Lee because he has way too many of them. Samantha jumping in saying, nice to see everyone. Hey, Sam. Hey, Gary. Me saying hello, everyone. Carla Rowley jumping in. Carla, as always, thank you for sharing Lee with us for an hour. Matthew Perkins saying huzzah. Lee, Alex, and esteemed guests. I love that huzzah, man. Makes my every single day. Tony Saboni, good to be here. Good to have you here, Tony. Hope you're having a great day today. Hannah Katoos jumping in saying, Gary, I agree. Hannah, wonderful to see you here today. Thank you very much for joining us. And then we have, all right, that's all the hellos so far from LinkedIn. If you guys are out there on Facebook or YouTube, just go ahead and drop a comment there and we'll stop the show and say hello. Back to your regularly scheduled interruption.
Well done with your interruption there, Alex. As I was saying, we have Jillian Risco here to perform her original Creatures of Habit. Now, can the rest of us be quiet for a minute?
Cool. I'll force mute everybody.
All right.
We're trying to fix what's broken, living life like unspoken. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit, who's here to tell us how now. Make our own rules in our mind now. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit. Never when you said you won't change. Why is it the same? You always do what you know. What happens when you self-control? Reasons I escape my consequences with. Tell me what's the deal? I don't need to be this way. Oh, I know it's not okay. Actions start to haunt me. I saw they wanted blind. We try to fix what's broken, leave a life like unspoken. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit who feel tell us how now. Make our own rules in our mind now. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit. Don't you dare give up so easily. It's what you said to me when I'm trying every single day. Is there more you can say? Reasons why I escape my consequences. Tell me what's the deal? I don't need to be this way. Oh, I don't think it's not okay. Actions start on yes. They wanted blind me. We try to fix what's broken, leave a life like words unspoken. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit who's here to tell us how now. Make our own rules in our mind now. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit. We try to fix what's broken, leave a life like words unspoken. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit who's here to tell us how now. Make our own rules in our mind now. Looks like we start to stop it. We're out creatures of habit.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
We're just doing it to the audience because you can't hear them clapping. That was absolutely incredible, Jillian. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for blessing our day with that, man. You're just amazing.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Lee, I know that you had big plans for this, so take it away, brother.
So I'm just curious. You said you've been performing since you were 7. So, like, tell me about that experience. And knowing that at that age that you were meant to be a performer.
Okay, so when I was a kid, my goal, my career goal was I'm going to become a singing veterinarian. That was my whole thing because I'm a huge animal lover. So I'm like, that works. Those two things, being a musician and a veterinarian, those go hand in hand, right? Well, obviously I stuck with the singing. I've just had a ton of pets since then. But yeah, I was a really, really shy kid. And then I started taking piano lessons and I didn't really super love that. I love the piano. As a kid, I didn't super love it. And my teacher was like, why don't you try voice? Because you obviously sing a little bit. That stuck. And it really broke me out of my shell. I became the very extroverted, outgoing person that I am today. And yeah, I've just been doing it ever since. I was a solo artist for a long time, and then I was in a rock band for 7 years, and now I'm doing the solo thing again the past, been doing that for almost 2 years again now at this point.
That's really cool. And I read that some of the lot of your new stuff is more fueled by kind of your personal journey. Is it, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I've done a lot of growing and just kind of on like a whole like self-growth journey. I went through a really, really dark time and dark period with my last relationship and my last band. And I came out of that, and it's just through music, I'm trying to find myself again and just become stronger. And that's kind of what my new songs and the songs I've been writing lately represent, just that whole emotional and mental journey of growing and becoming stronger and becoming, you know, kind of yourself, but a new version of yourself, a better version of yourself. Yeah.
Can I interject? Can I interject something?
Please do, Jeff.
Yes.
Have you ever listened to Beth Hart?
I've heard of her. I'm not quite sure if I've listened to her, but I know who that is.
She's out of L.A. She's a blues singer also out of L.A. She has traveled. You're traveling pretty much the same road as her, except that I know she was a heroin addict. And
oh, wow.
She's a recovered, clean and sober now. But everything she writes is about her journey, and she tells a story. If you go see her live, similar to what you just did, she tells a story about the song, how she wrote it, why she wrote it, and same thing. She had a bad relationship. She came home from off the road, found her husband with somebody else down the street, and just as she relays all her, everything that's going on in her life through her music. You ever get a chance? You two are similar in a lot of respects.
I will look that up. Yeah, I'll look her up.
And thank you so much, Jeff, for that. I know that it's always cool to be able to connect with those other people, in whatever industry you're in, to really see those commonalities. So that's awesome. But I want to do two things. We've got to stop the show and say hello to a couple of people that have been joining us, but also want to read some of the comments, Jillian, that you got about your song, because, man, it wasn't just us that was enjoying it. And I want to share and spread the love there. So Elizabeth Super joining us, saying special event, had to check it out. You are in for a treat. Not only is it a special event, because any BowtieUP Live is, but we have our very first musical guest, Mrs. Jillian Risco, with us, and she is absolutely incredible. So thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. Hope you enjoy the show today. And we've also got Adam Sinkus joining us, saying, what's up, Lee Rowley and crew? Lee, what's up with you, Kimasabi?
Hey.
And then let me see if we have anybody else. Just kind of trying to scroll through all of these comments here. Okay, so that is all the hellos, but let's go through these comments. And thanks, guys, for all of the love and the feedback for Jillian. And just saying that Hannah Katu says, Jillian, the song was beautiful. Matthew says, oh, wow, that voice with heart eye faces. Gary says, sounds good, Jillian. Samantha says, that was wonderful. Matthew says, huzzah to that. Phenomenal performance. You got a huzzah. That's special, bro.
Huzzah.
I look forward to those huzzahs every day.
That's
Adam
says,
I love it.
Should we give her could we give her a huzzah and a Yosemite Sam?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Okay. We should totally give her a Yosemite Sam.
All right.
Yosemite Sam.
It deserves a Yosemite.
Ow! My biscuits are burning! Fire in the hatch!
I love Yosemite Sam. That's absolutely incredible. Oh, a comment from YouTube to highlight. First of all, stop the show, say hello to Laura Hafner joining us on YouTube. Laura, I hope you're having a wonderful day today. Your little son looks so cute in that picture, by the way. And she says, awesome, love the song. So thank you very much for joining that. Adam says, great song, love the singing veterinarian. Matthew says, Jillian, I would consider myself blessed if we could talk regarding a virtual concert we're coordinating for mid-late May, so reach out to him. Tony Savoni, great music. Gary, what video setup are you using? Top notch. Who? Because we all got cool video setups. So that's just what we do.
It's just there's a few bells and whistles here.
Nothing, absolutely.
Nothing fancy.
More than happy to talk tech about the show, but we'll save that to the end and make it a little tech topic Tuesday.
Char Fry says, wonderful song over on Facebook.
Oh, yes, Char. Thank you for joining us. And hello. Hello to you.
Yes.
And Henry says, love you guys. And hey, Henry, stop the show. Say hello to you, the brand doctor. Make sure to check him out on Instagram as well.
Well, Jillian will be performing another song for us at the end of the show. And you all are going to recognize this. One? Right. No, I'm going to do it. What?
No, I was just really excited for the song. I got a sneak peek at what's going on.
Well, I want everybody to stick around. I mean, if it's just me, Gavin, they'll be like, I'm out, man. The good stuff's off, man. No, I'm kidding. So at the end of the show, you're going to be like, y'all are going to recognize this and you're going to love it. And in the meantime, we're going to kind of switch over and we're going to chat with Jeff for a bit. Jillian, you're welcome to just kind of hang out and chat with us if you like. And, we'll just dig into it. So
Jillian, we're going to put you in the audience here. Thank you so very much for joining us. And Jillian will be back with us later at the end of the show to be performing a very cool and recognizable song. So make sure to stick with us there. Lee?
Very cool. All right. Well, we're about to get into the second part of this, but true to form and for no particular reason, I would like to transition this with a little audio clip from a movie I have seen a few dozen times. So let's go ahead and do this.
Yeah, my dog ate my stash, man. I had it on the table and the little ate it, man.
Yeah?
So I had to follow him around the little baggie for 3 days before I got it back. Really blew the dog's mind.
All right, and with that, Jeff Adams, how you doing, man?
Very good. Nice intro there.
Smooth transition. Okay, so you and I were talking last week, and so the reason I think this is so important is because you kind of hit on some things in your personal life after a lot of reflection, as we've all been kind of cooped up and in reflection and thinking about things. And so you and I were talking about some of the things that are affect your universe. And, you know, we figured out that was a way to drive what you want to do as a copywriter and help you serve the people that you want to serve as a copywriter, rather than trying to be all things to all people. So you want to go ahead and walk us through that?
Yeah. Actually, well, you're the one who got me to see the light and focus on copywriting.
Yeah. Lee's wonderful. Whatever. Get on with it.
When we were talking last week, I kind of took off on the subject of mental health and mental illness. It's actually something I've been thinking of for quite a while, a couple of years, how I could get involved, how I could do something somehow working with people that are involved in that field. And I think this is one way I can do that. I have very briefly, why mental health. My family has a history of mental health issues, going back several generations, actually, back to at least the 1800s. We believe it's all from my dad's side of the family. But I have a daughter who's 31, who is a heroin addict. She's also bipolar and suffers from depression. I had a brother who was also bipolar and schizophrenic. And he, 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they didn't treat people very well who had mental health issues. And he was institutionalized for 25 years.
And guys, just Jeff, please resume that in just a second. Just wanted to say that we went ahead and put the little trigger warning up on the screen. So if this is something that has affected you, that you're a little bit sensitive to, just know that these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today in regards to mental health and even some like drug addiction. So they are, more heavy and somber topics, but just thanks for sticking with us. And we promise it'll be a great conversation. So with that, Jeff, back to your regularly scheduled interruption.
Yeah, it really doesn't. This subject doesn't have to be somber, so to speak. It's something that's bothered me in the sense that a lot of people, the vast majority of people, I think, don't understand and don't really know what a lot of people are going through. They don't understand mental health issues. Our government sure as hell doesn't. And I've watched what my brother went through. I've watched and I've been by my daughter's side, trying helping her get through her issues, which she will always have. Once you're an addict, you're always an addict. That doesn't change. the problems is that are faced by people, whether they're bipolar or suffer from depression or whatever issues that they have that they're suffering from. There just hasn't been any assistance for folks, and I have a theory that a belief that if we actually wanted to, we could treat mental health issues and catch them in the beginning with children, with kids. And if we were able to do that, I think we would eliminate a lot of what comes after that. There's what I just call a vicious cycle of that starts with people when they're children, when they're kids. That goes from mental health issues being undiagnosed. Therefore, kids, by the time they become preteen to early teens, begin to self-medicate. And that self-medication leads to addiction quite often. And that addiction leads to crime. Crime leads to prison. And we have a system in this country that is very unforgiving for people that are caught in this cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would like to be a part of an effort in one, bringing all of this to light. I've gotten into debates with people in the mental health area that are professionals that have told me there's no tie-in with things like mental health issues, with whether it's depression or schizophrenia or whatever, that there's no tie-in with things like drug addiction. And there is. In fact, the government recently, in the last 2 years, I believe, they now, part of their definition of drug addiction, or I'm sorry, part of their definition of mental health issues, addiction falls in there. They are now defining somebody who is a heroin addict or an alcoholic, which is what they used in this one site where I'd been reading some information from. They define that type of addiction as being a mental health issue, somebody who has a mental health problem. They're finally tying these things together, and it's a start, but we're not even close to scratching the surface. So we need to have, again, my belief, we need to have professionals that are in the schools, in the school systems throughout the country, that are able to talk to and work with these kids,
Right.
To determine if they indeed do have some issues, and then deal with them.
So then,
age.
well, one thing that comes to mind then, Jeff, when you talk about kids having these resources, is that recently I've been fortunate enough to be involved in a lot of efforts centered around education and centered around helping the youth, especially during the times where we're all in quarantine and we're all staying inside, we can't see our friends. And there's a major mental health concern too with these kids, because what's happening is you have two types of kids, right? You've got the kids who went to school as an escape from their environment. And then you have kids who go to school because that's the only way that they can actually get their learning completed, because they don't have resources at home to be able to complete that. And both of these groups of kids are very at risk right now for not completing school, for altering like their post-secondary plans, for not signing in and actually doing any of their homework due to the things that are going on with the world. But I also know that during this time, I've been able to work with a lot of the administrative staff in schools. And right now we're helping out a school in Texas. And these kids have resources available to them of counselors that they can talk to, of, you know, psychologists that they can talk to, and resources to really help them when they're having a difficult time in school. So I guess my question then becomes, what can we do better? How can we get to the kids who don't want to go and see somebody and talk to them because they just don't feel comfortable doing that? Or how can we really help them and make sure that they still are maintaining and keeping good mental health during these times?
Well, a couple of things. Like I think, like a lot of things, it starts at home. I think, for one, as parents, people need to educate themselves as to exactly what schizophrenia is, what being bipolar is, recognize these issues, depression, and so on. The other thing is within the schools. You mentioned a school system in Texas,
Mhm.
they have counselors, but are the counselors trained in recognizing things like depression and other forms of mental health issues? Are they trained in that?
And I can kind of speak to that even from my own personal experience in the school system, even if it was like 6 years ago. I'm still pretty young, right? And when I was there, the problem wasn't so much having people who were trained in how to support, because having crisis staff is always going to be paramount to a school. And I would tend to reason that schools would have those resources available. But I guess where I become curious is what we can do to better identify upfront the kids who have these needs. Because one of the biggest problems about mental illness is that it's completely invisible. You guys all know the story of Robin Williams. I mean, he made us all laugh. He made us all smile. If you see him on screen, he's one of the happiest persons you would ever know. But he committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about the issue, the bigger issue of mental health is all the people who look okay, but who are not okay. How do we start to combat that problem, starting with the youth of America? Is it empowering the kids to know that their voices will be heard and that they have an outlet to go to? Is it getting involved with the kids earlier and having open, honest, and regular discussions about their environment and the challenges that they're experiencing? Does it start at a cultural level and changing the perception of masculinity? Because men are disproportionately affected by suicide rates, but we're not going to go into that. Or does it start at the schools with education? You know, what do you see being the change, Jeff? How do you see this, kind of playing out and really being able to help the people who need it most?
Well, for one, you have to start early, and there's only two places in a kid's life from an early age on where that's going to happen, and that's either at home or in school, because those are the two places where these kids spend all their time. I know with my daughter, I never really. She was a straight A student up until she was about 14, and we had no idea, but she almost killed herself from over drinking, and paramedics actually saved her life. She swore she'd never do it again, but the thing is what we didn't realize is that she was self-medicating because she, as it turns out, is bipolar and suffers from depression. And we had no idea. Like you said, it can be very invisible.
You can, absolutely.
But there are telltale signs that even if we don't recognize it at home, they can be recognized hopefully at a younger age in the school system. I know with my daughter, she almost died from that. She and her friends, as it turns out, a couple of her friends that she was hanging out with, they were all in the same boat. They all had mental health issues, and all three of them ended up in prison. And you've got a couple of problems here. One is, like you said, is recognizing how do you recognize it at an early age and catch it and try to get them some help. That's an issue. And then what do you do? Getting them help. I know with my daughter, we couldn't get her help. It's not covered by insurance. You go and try and talk to somebody. Yeah, sure. It's $400 an hour. Is she doing drugs? Well, yeah, she's doing drugs. That's how we found out about it, and why we know she's got a problem. Oh, well, we can't talk to her if she's doing drugs. Well, what the hell? Then?
And these really do a great job of outlining some of the serious and chronic issues with our healthcare system and with the support that we're that we're giving and providing to everyday people. But we do have to do a couple of awesome things, including go over some audience feedback that's been left in the comments that you guys have been dropping fire. So thank you, and thanks for taking part in this discussion, and also stopping the show and saying hello to a couple of our friends out here in the audience. Joining us is Christopher Nesbitt saying, hello, everyone. Hey, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to stay to the end because we have special guest Jillian Risco with us today. A musician, absolutely tremendously talented. We heard one of her originals earlier, and she'll be playing a special song at the end that I think all of you guys will recognize. So make sure you do not want to miss that. We are talking about mental health. And as I don't show up, I see Lee wanting to take the mic. So Lee, take it away.
Well, just real quickly, I'm going to go ahead and add Jillian back in. We could have been conversing behind the scenes, and I think she's got some valuable feedback and insights to add to the discussion. I'm like, why not go ahead and, we didn't want to put the burden on her to participate, but, you are more than welcome. So,
yeah, no, I really appreciate everything that you're saying. As someone who has dealt with off and on like depression and anxiety and like suicidal thoughts and all that, like I said, I was in a dark place for a very long time, and it was, either I go away or the situation goes away. And so it's something I struggled with, and I thankfully had my best friend talk me out of the opposite, and here I am. But it's something that, like you said, Alex, like our healthcare system it's like they almost ignore it. And it's like, if things aren't good up here, like things could hurt down here on your body, but if things aren't good up here and like in your head and your heart, then there's an issue. There's going to be an issue in the fact that, the healthcare system and just a lot of people in general, like, I don't know if it's just people are afraid to communicate. Communication is my number one thing between anybody I have a relationship with. And it's like, if people aren't willing to just be vulnerable and emotional and try to communicate, like that's the most important thing. Like we are emotional, vulnerable, like we're humans, we're human beings. Like, I don't know, there needs to be more of an emphasis, like everywhere in general, as far as mental health goes, because the rates of suicide and self-harm of people, just even I know, it's staggering, and there's no reason for it. Like the world is stressful, I feel like people in our generation, Alex, like we have it in your daughter's age. Your daughter seems to be about the same age as me. Things are stressful. It's not like a long time ago where things were pretty easygoing. Things are stressful now, and we need outlets and resources to just help combat that.
And there are so many things we can get into with this, and it's such a deep and diverse topic. I think that one of the things to touch on what you were saying, Jillian, about why there is so much disparity between why people don't care. Why do people not care about mental health and the well-being of actual society? And Gary Monty brought up earlier in the comments, it's because there's no stakeholder return if we invest in mental health. Barf. And isn't that the truth? I actually just had a conversation with Sam last week about, medical bills and about how everything's really made up. If you're talking about your insurance paying 60% of your bill, so they're not actually covering the whole thing, you're left with this 40%. And so you have to make the decision, do I want to pay this bill and go to the doctor and maybe get the help that I need? Or do I want to use this money instead for putting food on the table? These are really tough decisions that you get faced with that are completely not fair to anyone whatsoever. I mean, we've had a couple of other, because I said I would, highlighting audience comments, my friends. Great comments from Matthew Perkins. You've been adding a lot to this discussion, so thank you. So just to loop you guys in, there's a correlation. These are all from Matthew. Correlation between drug use and mental health disorders, especially in the population that can't afford medical care, though the correlation is not limited to financial means. And that's, you can't afford a doctor. Exactly. So it's like taxing people for not having insurance. You can't afford a doctor, but you also can't afford insurance. And then it's just a complete mess. It's like, why is it pay to play to go get help that I need when I feel off and I need to go to the doctor? Gary says domestic violence is way up with self-quarantine, which is another thing that a lot of people are completely ignoring, is the fact that, we're in self-quarantine trapped with our abusers right now. That's tremendous. Wonderful. Good job. No safe place for you to go when the world's in quarantine, but keep out there protesting because you want to liberate Minnesota. Whatever. Matthew says psychological maintenance should be a basic human/medical right, not waiting for a problem to present itself. Think of your car without regular maintenance. Because there's a knock in your motor, you might be prone to ignore that knock until next thing you know, you're on the side of the road. If a car needs regular preventative maintenance, why would your brain, which is the most complicated piece of machinery in known existence, be any different?
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
No.
Great thought.
Yeah,
it shouldn't
exactly.
be. That
hits it right on the nose.
Cars are a great analogy for humans.
It's only until recently that insurance coverage, health insurance coverage, is even starting to take a look at covering mental health for some people. I know my coverage has it now, but that hasn't been the case for years and years, and is still not the case for most people. Again, what was just stated a few minutes ago about taking care of the brain, that's really what that's an excellent way to look at it. That's an awesome way to look at it. Why don't we? Again, it goes to funding, and it goes to people have to care, and there are just not enough people who care, particularly in the government.
Right. Because it's not about people caring. It's about the highest level of people who make the decisions caring. And for them to care, you have to buy it. And to buy it, you have to have a lot of money. And I'll
give you an example. When Obama's last year or 2 years, and I'm not trying to pick on him, I'm not Democrat or Republican, but his last couple of years in office, they actually cut funding for mental health by millions of dollars. And then after there was a mass shooting at one of the schools, he came out with the announcement in public that, well, we've just we're pledging $1 million to study mental health for mental health studies. And I'm like, you just took away millions of dollars, and now you're making a big deal out of you're going to give back $1 million. But that's how the government is working, right, and how they've been working with regard to this sort of thing.
Well, right now the government's more concerned with reopening the economy and our stock market going up than they are with the actual health of every American during times of pandemic going through and killing people disproportionately in the average population.
Mental health coverage should be something that I think that every citizen in the country should have access to, bar none. I think, and I think the best way to approach that, at least initially, is through the school system and starting with kids. They go to these the mass shootings, just as an example. every one of these mass shootings over the last couple of years, the ones in the high schools and bars, and these people are, anybody who goes out and does this is nuts. And as soon as something like this happens, I tell my wife, I said, watch, you'll see, they're going to find this guy's got an issue somewhere in the past. And sure enough, there's an issue in the past. And if you really are serious about stopping things like that, as well as cutting down on crime, cutting down on drug addiction, cutting down on all the millions and millions and millions of dollars that are spent in this country trying to deal with crime and deal with addiction and dealing with all these side issues. If they just dealt with mental health from the get-go, you'd eliminate a large percentage of all of these other problems, because they're all connected.
So then let's take this, because there are a lot of issues and there are a lot of problems, and we could literally go on all day about it between the four of us and all of you out there in conversation. But let's talk about some things that we can do and some steps that we can do to help people out and support each other during this time, because we can all agree that mental health's an issue. We can all agree that it affects us all, and we can all agree that things kind of completely suck right now, no matter who you are and where you're at.
Right.
So let's talk about some things that we can do to empower each other. And let's talk about some things that we can do to check in with our friends and to make sure that if we're all supporting each other and that we're all taking that little effort to help somebody else, that we all rise up together. So guys, let's just go around the table, starting with Jillian, who I know is dying to say something, and talk about what we can do to help out.
Pick me.
Yes, please. Yes. And thank you for being a part of this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, like communication is my number one, and I'm generally 90% of the time an extrovert. And so like this is totally silly and old school. I posted on my Facebook yesterday. I'm like, hey, this is random, but who wants to be pen pals? And I know that's so like silly and just like almost like, what are you talking about? I had a ton of people like, oh my God, that's so cool. And they messaged me and we exchanged addresses. And it's just about like the sense of community. That's so important right now, because there are times like it ebbs and flows, and it's like I'm so used to every week going and playing shows and interacting with tons of people throughout the week, and that's not happening right now. So my main interactions are on these live streams. And so just finding some sort of sense of community, whether it's like, oh, I'm gonna have a pen pal, or oh, I'm gonna video chat and like Zoom with my friend, or find just different communities and really just check up on your friends and your family and just outreach to people, because people need it. Like there are times like where I'm like feeling so lonely and like what's happening, like it's confusing, and it does a lot of the quarantine. I feel like overall is doing a lot of weird things to the brain, whether people think it is or not, whether you lost a job or if you have your job, or whether you're just, feeling trapped at home. Just finding some sort of sense of community. So even something as silly as having a pen pal, mailing letters back and forth, just finding a sense of community is just really important. And you can do that online. It's so easy in so many ways,
So let's talk about that and expand upon that, Jillian, because I think that's a great idea. So you brought up two great things, which is community and communication. Communicate with your friends, find a community to feel comfortable and interact with. So first, let's talk about how to find that community. Or actually, let's flip this. First, let's talk about how to foster that communication and some steps you can take to really communicate with your friends, whether that be sending somebody a message every day, send 5 different people a message 1 time a day, so that you're communicating with 5 different people every day and just checking on them, saying, hey, friend to friend, quarantine pal to quarantine pal, how you doing, for real? Something like that can be very beneficial. So Jillian, how do you think that we can, how would you encourage people to find a community of people like them? And then what would you say in terms of communication, what you can do to change things?
As far as communities, in my head, it's simple, because like I go to like music, for example, and that's such like a wide variety. There's so many niches of different types of music and all that. But just things that pique your interest. Like I started gardening through this. And so I've connected with a couple of friends that I didn't realize they like to garden, and now we're talking more. So it's like finding something that piques your interest, and the internet is so vast and so huge that whether it's Facebook or a Reddit forum or you know, a YouTube live stream or whatever, like there's a community for everything on the internet, and you just simple Google search if you don't know where to start, or ask a friend that you think might have something in common. So that's, you know, that's where I start when I'm curious and I want to expand, because it's like you have your own network of family and friends, right, or coworkers, whatever. But something I did when I got out of my last situation with my last band and my relationship, is I was like, man, I've been so self-isolating and kind of on my own, so to speak, for a long time, that I just want to make all the friends. And so I just started messaging people. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? Like, why don't we go out and do X, Y, and Z? Obviously, we can't do that right now, so we have to do it in an online fashion. So finding those communities, whether it's, like I said, a Facebook group or whatever, ways in my head to communicate, just as simple as picking up your phone. I know that's scary to some people, but picking up your phone and placing a phone call and saying, hey, just checking in on you. How are you doing? Do you need anything? What can I help you with? Like that's so important. So many people have been like, wow, thank you. Because some people are afraid to do that. Some people, you know, communication is hard for them. We're all different, and like nothing's wrong with that. So
Absolutely. And that's important to remember. We're all different and nothing's wrong with that.
Nope.
So, I do want to make sure that we keep the time for you to play your final song to Jillian, because I am very much looking forward to that. We'll take about 5 more minutes to talk about some of the ways that we can encourage and inspire other people and help them during these times to help combat the rampant issues with mental health. And then we'll go over to Jillian's final song and then some final thoughts. So without further ado, guys, Lee and Jeff, what do you guys think that we can do to really help people out during these timelines? What advice would you give on how we can start to fix things and at least start at home, so to speak, with ourselves?
Well, I'll start. I with regards to mental health, drug addiction, some of the things that I'm talking about goes way beyond what we're dealing with here, as far as being people isolated in their homes and so on. So my answer to what can we do as a community, as a country, we can start getting involved and actually paying attention and asking questions of the people that are running for to be your elected representatives, and flat out ask them, if you're elected, are you going to support this? Are you going to find out what they're going to do? We're elected. we're about to elect, vote on 2 people running for president, and really don't know what either one of them stands for. But I think if you that would be my answer as far as what can we do in the long term. In the long term, because the government's got to get involved in this, and people, we have to have insurance coverage for people, and we have to figure out a way to, as I said, start taking care of kids who have problems, finding them and taking care of them at a young age before they decide to go out 10 years later and shoot up a high school. You know, it's. Or a movie theater or something. It's just absolutely insane.
So let's get to them before that happens, guys.
Yeah.
And so, Jeff, from what I'm hearing, then just to kind of run through everybody who's just joining us, some of the ways that we can help out are focusing and getting involved with our legislature and local government and really raising our voice and being heard surrounding mental health awareness and topics, and also engaging with the youth of America and making sure that they have someone that they can turn to that is not just their parent or a school administrator, that they know that they can give open and honest feedback to. Jillian had some great suggestions down here. with finding a sense of community, finding a community that you can feel safe, secure, and comfortable with, and also communicating with your friends, checking in on them, making sure that they are all right. And Lee, we've got about 3 minutes before we move on to Jillian's song and then final thoughts. So bring us home on some things that we can do to get involved and really help people out.
You know, a lot of it for me is about the stigma. There's still a huge stigma around mental illness, and there's that, you know, kind of underlying belief that if you suffer from a mental illness, that you're somehow not quite a whole human being. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You know, that you're somehow broken. And so, I mean, I say that whatever your strength is, I say if you give a fat rat's free crack, there's a way for you to help, and it's your own unique way. So I can't tell you what it is for you. For me, it's being open and vulnerable and transparent about the fact that, look, I have bipolar disorder. I have mental issues that probably will not be diagnosed for decades after my passing, but I'm still a functional, mostly human being who, with the help of my wonderful and beautiful wife, I managed to get through life and maybe do some things for some people. So we're not monsters. We're not broken. We're not terrible people. We just, you know, as you say, it's like the car analogy. You have to keep, you know, you have to keep in tune. You can work with it. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. You know, you can work with it. And that starts with not having that stigma of not being afraid of it. So for me, I'm just out here saying, yep, I'm crazy. So what? And maybe make it a little less scary for everybody else.
And that's important.
Let me
interject
real quickly on what
you got.
What Lee
60 seconds, brother.
All right. What Lee just stated, it really is based upon the history of this country and our nation. Mental health literally was hidden, not just ignored. It was hidden. It was considered to be a disgrace, a family disgrace, if anybody knew that you had mental health issues, or anybody in your family had mental health issues. It was hidden. When I grew up with an aunt who was stuck into a mental health facility, into a hospital, and no one ever really knew. She was just hidden. No one even knew about her. No one knew she existed in our family.
Right.
I didn't even know she was my aunt until about 10 years ago.
And thank you so much, Jeff. That is very important to making sure that you're aware of these things. And just to recap for everybody, because we're going to be closing down here, Jillian, you're going to be on the buzzer next with your special song. But let's just go over real quickly some of the things that we've talked about so that you, yes, you listening, can make a difference in somebody's life and really help improve mental health for those around us, because we know that it's a problem that affects us all. So starting out with Lee, since he went most recently, he recommended ending the stigma. And guys, it's very important. Stop the freaking stigma. Like, there is no problem with us being open, honest, and transparent surrounding the issues that are affecting us in our day-to-day lives, so that we can lift each other up and support each other instead of tear each other down and all be miserable. So keep that in mind. Jeff advised that you get involved with your local government to really start advocating and supporting and championing for those who do not have the voice, because no one can raise your voice nearly as much as you can. And you got to accept that responsibility and move on before you're going to be able to make a difference. And then Jillian suggested that we find a sense of community and that we foster communication. Communicate with your friends and find a community that you can be yourself and interact with in an authentic and you-centric way. Now, rounding us out before we get to final thoughts, we have Jillian Risco, absolutely wonderful, wonderful musician, singer, songwriting extraordinaire, who will be performing a very special song. Jillian, you want to tell us what you're going to be performing for us?
Lee requested this one, so this one's for Lee.
Well,
we're gonna do a little 90s alternative rock. So it's a Zombie by the Cranberries.
Awesome. We're going to be running a tip jar link and a couple other links to make sure you take a look at that. Go around. She's playing her heart out for us, so we really appreciate her having her on the show. Thank you.
Thank you, Jillian.
America, like this someday. The violence of silence, we must be mistaken. See, it's not me, it's not my family. In your head, we let takes and their bombs, and their bombs, and their bombs. In your head, what's in your head? In your head, yeah. Zombie, zombie, zombie. What's in your head? In your head, yeah. Zombie, zombie, zombie. Mother's waking, heart is taking over. The violence of this silence, we must be mistaken. It's the same old thing since 1916. In your head, yeah. With their tanks and their bombs, and their bombs, and their bombs. In your head, they are dying. What's in your head? In your head, yeah. Zombie, zombie, zombie. What's in your head? In your head, yeah. Zombie, zombie, zombie.
I had myself muted. I was just gonna clap. Like, that was incredible, Jillian. Thank you so much. Zombie is actually like one of my favorite songs too. So I'm so glad that you did that. That's like super thrilling. And guys, for those of you out there in the audience just listening to this about 35 seconds afterwards, make sure to go and check out Jillian Risco on YouTube. You can go to her website, www.jillianrisco.com. She has some new releases coming out. She's got merch. She's got a bunch of awesome things going on. So make sure to give her some love and show her your appreciation. Something simple like a like, comment, share, and subscribe on her YouTube could go a long way. So do what you can to support small everywhere. Jillian, thank you so much for being with us today and for everything that you have done to put up with our crazy selves.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll get all the links in the live stream here at the end too. Did we miss any?
Oh, I just said thank you.
I'm on iTunes and Spotify, so check out Creatures of Habit and Breaking Point on there. Those are my new songs, and yeah.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure we don't miss any opportunities for people to enjoy your music there. Jeff, any last words?
Oh, no. We can't just say last words, Jeff.
Oh, that's right. You flipped it on me. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, let's let Alex get his favorite banner up here as we transition to Final Thought.
All right.
So, and Jillian, I'm going to have you do this too, just because this is one of my favorite parts. So Final Thoughts is just where we get 30 seconds, a minute and a half or however long we want, to share the final thoughts that we would like to leave the audience out there, yes, you listening to this 35 seconds later, with. So we will start with our guest for today, guest speaker that is, and then move to our guest musician. So Jeff, JD down here, what you got coming for us for our final thoughts? You are on solo and the floor is yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I'd just like to say thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this in front of some folks. I think it's a really important topic. I could talk about it for quite a long time, actually. So I appreciate it. And if there's anybody who sees this, who's out there working in the mental health field, I'd be more than happy to work with you and help you out any way I can.
Thank you very, very much, Jeff. We appreciate you being with us here today for talking about mental health, because it is a very, very important topic, and all of the knowledge, insight, and understanding that you showed. Have a wonderful, wonderful day today. And moving on next to final thoughts is our favorite musician would be Jillian Risco. You got solo layout. What would you like to leave us with today?
I just want to say thank you for having me on the show and being your first ever musical guest. So that was fun. Thank you everybody that watched and tuned in. I really appreciate it to just reach out to new people and spread that sense of community like we were talking about. It was really good to discuss everything we discussed today. So, and yeah, reach out to a friend. Quarantine's crazy. So reach out to a friend and definitely check out my music as well.
You got it, Jillian. And everybody out there in the audience, we will have those links over here. Wow, my pointing's changed now with this new setup. Over here in the comments for you to check out. I'll bring in Mr. Mang and let Lee lead us out for the final thoughts. So I'll go ahead and take center screen here with my favorite Mr. Mango to lead us out.
Mango bombs.
Hey, how's it going, buddy? So Mango, what do you want to say today? You want to talk about mental health? Huh? Well, we've all got it running through our heads. What in the world does a 10-month-old have to do with mental health? And most importantly, is just find something that makes you happy. Things right now are really crazy. Things are insane. The world is flipping upside down. And everybody is, for one unique moment in history, united by the shared experience of the insanity that's going on. So find something or find someone that can contribute to your happiness and allow them that part in your life where you can be open, honest, and transparent with them and allow them to bring you that happiness that you need right now to get through the difficult times. For me, it's this little crazy 10-month-old who sometimes responds when I pinch his cheeks. No, he's got his pinky in. But, seriously, guys, like try to find something that happens. Find somebody to support you, to get you through the hard times, because these are the times that you need it. Don't be scared to stand up and ask for help. And as I always say, be a better person today than you were yesterday. Take us back here. I got one hand, so give me a tech break. There we go. All right, Lee, my friend, putting you in single screen as Jeff brings his Yorkie too. I think we can have a little baby off at the end.
Okay.
What are your final thoughts, my friend?
Well, I don't have plastic patty, so we can no. We're not doing that. All right. Anyway, so final thoughts. My God, what a great show! I mean, Jeff, I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability, and like the fact that you're willing to come here and share this speaks volumes about you as a person. And if you're in mental health, nonprofit, whatever, and you need a good wordsmith, I definitely check him out. Jillian, thank you so much for coming on the show again. Just being the one who's saying, yeah, what, I'll wing it, because I've taught. I think that's gonna make it okay for the rest of the musicians to go, okay, well, Jillian, we're good. So maybe we'll get some more musicians on here. I hope to make it a thing. And I hope that this helps bring you a lot of new audience members and fans. Alex, as always, thank you so much. Mango, Alex, you're a great host. You keep this whole thing together, and I really appreciate you, doing this day after day, especially when you're juggling the business and a little one and all that good stuff. But, find something you to do that you love. This is something that I love, and I appreciate all of you who are checking this out, tuning in, supporting the show. Thank you very much, and we look forward to bringing you tons more edutainment here on BowtieUP Live.
I forgot I had my mic muted so that somebody couldn't yell into my mic. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Jillian and Jeff, for being with us today. And in the immortal words of Lee Rowley, we'll see you next time on BowtieUP Live.
Those are my immortal words.
They are now.
Later.
I'll take it.
Bye.
Bye.